The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Well, Biden's have some trouble with that little laptop, and the election is only a week away. Thank you for joining me. I'm John Lebang. Welcome back, my friends. After a very interesting week of having some difficulties with the studio stuff, our last episode, we broadcast, we had really poor audio, and I want to apologize for that. Somehow we didn't see that coming, or we didn't see it happening as it happened, and the result was we didn't have that great of audio. In fact, it was actually terrible. We missed one day then after that because of the fact that we had other things to do and not any time to really get that stuff situated. So the Biden laptop is causing a lot of problems, and the malpractice media is absolutely silent, including some of the so-called right-wing news media outlets, as if they don't want this to be widely known that the Bidens, through this laptop, have been pretty much proven to be a crime syndicate family. But they're part of a larger crime syndicate called the Democrat Party. I was asked the other day, have you ever voted for a Democrat in the presidential election? No. Can't vote for a party with the history of that of that group. But I was contemplating this the other day. The idea, normally, like in 2016, Joe Biden would have ran for president then because of usually an incumbent vice president who takes over, or who's there for a president that's been in office for 8 years, normally runs as vice president that following election because he's got some kind of momentum. But for some reason, Joe Biden sat out. He looked like he was going to actually try to retire. And Hillary Clinton, another crime syndicate, family actually in the Clintons, held the reins. And I think Joe Biden was like, okay, everything is going to be safe with our crime family because of the fact that, Hillary's going to be in office and none of this stuff is going to get any kind of light for the American people. We're not going to see any of it. And then when Hillary Clinton didn't win, we saw from almost the entire Democrat Party a meltdown over the last 3.5 years, trying every reason to get the president out. And look at what's happening. We are starting, not only with all the emails, we already knew Clinton was dirty. But now we're finding out how dirty the Bidens are. Many of us already knew, but it wasn't the whole country that knew. And what's interesting is that the people in the Democrat Party right now are okay with putting in a guy, voting for a guy who is clearly a mobster in the modern era, right along with the Clintons. And you have to, by extension, and people will not talk about this. Again, the malpractice media is absolutely silent on things like this. Supposedly, all that Russian hacking and everything happened in 2016 during the Obama administration. They're not held accountable for any of that. As a person here who already knew these things, but the general knowledge, for some reason, that the Democrat Party in particular is totally corrupt, seemed to have eluded the entire country. And I know some people are going to say, well, those Republicans are just as bad. And they are, but in a different light or respect. They don't get anything done when they're in charge of anything. So we all go one way with the Democrats and we never get pulled back with the Republicans. And what that equals out is we head in one direction as a country, fully in support of both parties carrying us in that direction. As we've spoke about, the Republicans themselves are a defeat mechanism for the American people. They're the automatic opposite for anybody who can't vote Republican or a Democrat, who don't want to be a Democrat. Now with the election about a week away, less than a week away, depending on when you're hearing this broadcast, we're looking at a situation where normally we have a lesser than two evils situation. It's beyond that now. We're to the point where it's going to be more of the same or worse. More of the same being Trump running the country as far as the presidency is concerned. He hasn't been able to accomplish, no matter what his supporters say, he has not been able to accomplish all that much outside of his executive orders. And as soon as that man leaves office, whether it's in this January or 4 years plus, those executive orders can be easily changed. The things he did while in office can be easily changed. And yes, he had no support for the last 2 years from the Democrat Party, but he had the first 2 years to do some of his campaign promises, and outside of a tax cut, mostly for the corporate entities, not the individuals of the country. We got a tax cut. He calls it the largest tax cut in history. Fine, but it was for mostly, primarily, the corporations. They got a tax break. And with that tax break, which was supposed to incentivize them to hire people, which some did, some didn't. Supposed to give raises, some did, some didn't. Some companies just accepted the free extra money and pocketed it, that, helping them get those record profits to help their Wall Street portfolios grow and grow and grow and grow. But this laptop, which is showing, because we went off topic again, this laptop, from the information that's being slowly dumped to us, Hunter Biden has had a lot of shady deals. The big guy, who's the big guy? Everybody's asking that question. We all know who the big guy is. That's Daddy Biden, the big guy. When he was confronted on that during the debate, he giggled and avoided it totally. And the moderators, every one of them, were pretty much worthless. Terrible. We had no foreign policy discussion, or barely any, when that is the primary reason we elect a president, to deal with foreign powers. The idea, and most people's idea of what the president is so distorted. And that's because they don't even know what the Constitution says about any of the branches. The president is supposed to handle the foreign relations. Although he's the president of the United States, his primary purpose is to deal with foreign nations, make sure, and this is part of the federal government, make sure the states get along with each other. And finally, and the third thing that the presidency and the federal government is supposed to do, protect individual rights from the states. If the states are infringing rights like they were in New York, in Michigan, proven by the state Supreme Court, telling our governor here in Michigan that her edicts on the masks and the staying home and the shutting down of businesses and all that was illegal. Yet the federal government failed in its charter, or one of its charters, by protecting individual rights from state governments. It hasn't filed charges against Governor Whitmer. In fact, the federal government, through the FBI, has aided and abetted the governor here in Michigan. And we understand why, because both were facing heat at the same time. Whitmer through her illegal executive edicts, and the FBI is being exposed for all the Russian collusion and everything that they use phony, fake, imitated, made up documents to push a narrative to spy on an American citizen. And I know if you don't like Trump, that's okay, right? You don't care that Trump's rights were violated. Except if you're willing to throw Donald Trump's rights away, you're willing to throw anybody's rights away, including yourself. We have to have some integrity as people. And unfortunately, that's what this election is about. And I just saw 71 million people have already voted in the election. And that number is just going to go higher. Through mail-in ballots or whatever they are. We have willingly tainted or participated in a tainted election. So whatever result happens, everybody who participated is partially to blame for the results that are going to come about. And I'm not talking about the guy that gets the office, whoever that might be. I still think Trump's going to win because I don't believe the polls. I didn't believe the polls in 2016, and I don't believe them now. But regardless, Biden or Trump, you get more of the same or worse. And the American people participated in this election to say, we want more of the same, which is lockdowns. More of the same means we're going to get more of the same out of the Democrats, too. We're still going to get the protest and the whining and the complaining and the snowflaking. That's what's going to happen if Trump wins. I almost exclude him on what he's doing and his position from this election when we look at the election in general, because Trump is only a figurehead and he only represents a certain part of America. And the left hates that part so much that they were willing to rip the country apart over the past 3 years. And if Trump wins, we're going to get more of the same. Now, if Biden wins, well, he's told you. Mandatory masks, even though that's unconstitutional, here in the state of Michigan especially. The vaccines are still coming. Doesn't matter who the president's going to be. And with Operation Warp Speed and the military deploying the vaccines, well, you tell me if that's something that you want to be a part of. Anyways, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We have a little bit more on the other side. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Eye-Raider convention.
Man, I really hope you all have been stocking up, preparing. I know over the past several months, since the whole lockdown has began and you guys were on top of it, you were preparing yourself, getting your stores, getting what you had to get to make sure you were okay during this whole event, whatever it might be. And remember, we heard at the debate from Mr. Biden, he was saying that we're heading for a dark winter, and now we're getting the same thing out of Fauci, dark winter. So I looked that up, and oddly enough, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I found. Operation Dark Winter was a code name for a senior level, get this, bioterrorist attack simulation conducted. Now listen closely, folks. June 22nd and 23rd, 2001. Let's break that down real quick, folks. June, month the 6th, right? 22nd and 23rd. If we take all the 2s, you have a 6 there. The 3 is left from the 23, plus 2001. You add all those together, and you get a 6. Interestingly enough, Biden, who text number is the division of 2020 divided by 666, now mentions dark winter, and there's an Operation Dark Winter that happened on June 22nd, 23rd, and 2001. 21 code is in there too, if you saw that, folks. Now, it was designed to carry out a mock version of a, get this, covert and widespread smallpox attack in the United States. If you substitute smallpox for COVID, sounds very similar. Get this. Tara O'Toole and Thomas Lingsby of the Johns Hopkins Institute for Civil Biodefense Strategies was part of the simulation. There's old John Hopkins once again. You know, they were involved in Event 201. They're one of the primary trackers of the Boogie Woogie virus. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Oddly enough, Joe Biden, who's talking about a dark winter coming up, Fauci is doing the same thing, using that terminology. And so I had looked it up, and that's what I found. Coincidence? Well, we'll leave that up to you folks, because we don't want to suggest that these people might be involved in any kind of Luciferian activities that would be very judgmental on us. And we're not very judgmental. We just tell it like we see it. And we don't need the fact that all these little 666 things that are associated with Biden come up. It's cool, because all we have to do is look at the man's record and the recent information that has been slowly trickled out to us. And isn't this great that it waited till the last minute here to just come rolling out? Same with the Durham report. Remember, we were supposed to get this big report, and it was supposed to take down the swamp. Well, that didn't happen right here during the election. It may guarantee a Trump win. I don't know. I think he was already selected to be the president, and this whole thing that we're going through is just a measure of some academic BS. We're just waiting for the day to happen so they can declare the problem, so then we can have more, and the problem being that somebody's going to say the election didn't go the way it was supposed to. Again, I'm speculating this, but they've set this up, folks. When we take into consideration the Smith-Mundt Act, and all the other stuff supporting this election. And I know many of you love Donald Trump. That's fine. But putting Donald Trump in office right now is going to send all kinds of people into the streets. And if that's what you want, then fine. Voting for Biden is going to take those people who are burning down the streets and give them credibility, give them the incentive to continue their reign of terror on the country. So that's why I've been saying all along, we can't vote this election. Trust me, I sit back and I see what Biden's doing, and it scares the heck out of me. What in Biden administration with an emboldened Congress run by the Democrats could wreak on us. 2008 to 2012 was some of the most, especially 2010, that second year of Obama, was some of the most damaging legislation wrought on America. And that's because the Democrats had enough power to shove through legislation on us. And that's what they're going to do this time. And they're promising they're going to get rid of the filibuster. Now there's talk of stacking the court. Why is that? They're unhappy that the American people picked a different guy than their person? You see, if these people were reasonable, they would, especially after the last election, sit back and go, how did we lose to Trump? The man is not the most presidential person on the planet. He can be vulgar. He can be shocking. How did they lose to him? And the Democrats had never had that internal talk about their beliefs. What they did is then expand it and said, it's a Russian collusion thing. Russia did it. They had phony documents supplied by the Clintons and the Democrat Party to create that narrative. So instead of reflecting on how their positions and how the prior 8 years had forced the country, had pretty much directed the country to vote against them because they were so over the top. They didn't learn from that. They decided to go full-blown. And that's because these people are hell-bent on their agenda. They don't care that there's nearly half the country, maybe more than half, depending on whatever, that do not want their policies. To these people, it's the only way, their way or the highway, and they're going to make it happen. And if you get them and allow them to get in office, this is going to be shoved down our throat. Global climate change garbage, which we don't even talk about anymore because we spoke about it ad nauseum. The reasons why they claim climate change is a bad thing and why I say, well, climate change isn't a bad thing. And even if climate change is a bad thing, we're not the ones creating it. It has always happened. Or raising our taxes. Obamacare for all, or Biden care for all, as he said during the debates. Who's going to pay for that? You don't think about that stuff, and if you do, and you still accept it, what you're saying is you're okay with a government being a totalitarian-style government as long as your people are in charge. That's it. And that stuff has really got to change here in America. And I don't foresee this happening anytime soon because we as a people are lost. We have no idea what freedom is anymore. We have some convoluted, mind-numbing idea of what this country is about. It's about individual responsibility and self-governance. And the Democrats can't afford people to self-govern because that would mean they have no control over them through a system that they continually grow and expand. That's all the Democrats ever want to do is grow and expand the government. They're not interested in reducing the size of government because they believe government is God. And as long as they're in charge, they are God. The ultimate quest for power, because they think they know what's right for all of us. And I'm getting tired of the world doing that. They've got young people also confused about just about everything there is. And we've allowed ourselves, through the Democrats primarily, because again, the Republicans are so limp-wristed, so linguini-spined that they hardly ever have the guts to implement something worth anything. They can't be totalitarians. They can't be dictators because they don't have the guts. Trump is he's an exception to the rule as far as the Republicans are concerned. And that's because he's a former Democrat, ladies and gentlemen. You have no real Republican running in this election or in the prior election. In fact, Republicanism, as it was, created here in the state of Michigan, by the way, long gone. There is no republic or Republicans in the traditional sense anymore. They are 60s and 70s Democrats. That's what the Republican Party is now. They're the Democrat Party of the 60s and 70s, minus the racism, because I can tell you from experience that it is the people on the left that are far more racist, because they're the ones that split people up into sub-races and don't call everybody a human race. They're the ones that look at somebody's skin and call them a black or a white or whatever. They're the ones. Well, with that being said, folks, we're up against it. We're going to do a short little version today. We've got many things to do, so we hope you enjoyed the show. Please, if you want to keep up on what's going on, go to our website, www.jlebang.com. We're posting as often as we can there. We're super busy. We're up against crunch time. We've got a special coming out. We've got the Banger Music Awards coming out, as well as so many other things in just the regular, normal world that, it's taken a lot of devotion and time away from everything else. So with that being said, folks, we'll see you again real soon. Thanks for tuning in. Signing out for now.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,